All right, folks. All right, folks. Good morning. Good morning, and welcome to the Sunday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN. I am Joe Mangiacotti, and we're here for the next hour before Mike Wade joins us for Conservatively Speaking. Teddy Kudbup hanging here on the counter. Flying the board is Shane. Good morning, Shane.
Good morning, Joe. How are you today?
Fantastic. And wow, listen to that mic.
Wow, I sound great.
I know. You should do that late night spinning, right?
Yeah, they should.
Fantastic. Wow.
Some slow love tunes.
Listen to you. Look at that. All right. That just gave me goosebumps.
Hey, you never know. We could have a new show here at WCRN.
Yeah, CRN at night. Or after, no, they do the after dark.
Shane After Dark.
Yeah, Shane After Dark. Okay, let's refocus.
Right.
So we got Mike Wade coming in 7 o'clock. Peter Blute, of course, at 9 o'clock for our Sunday morning talk block intact, folks. Don't forget now. The Joe Mangiacotti Show is Mondays and Fridays at 1 o'clock. Hey, you got a bonus one on Wednesday this past week. A few of you were surprised and found it. So we'll see how many times that can happen. 508-871-7000. That's how you join the conversation, 508-871-7000 throughout the whole morning here. You can tell Alexa to play WCRN. She'll do that. No questions asked. We're also live streaming on the TuneIn app. So that is like the best thing in the world. Shane, do you listen to the station or stations through your car radio or through your TuneIn app, Bluetooth to your speakers more? What do you do?
Normally it's through the car radio.
Yeah. I do, but then I tend to always end up doing the streaming. I don't know. But it's just I got in the habit because I always have the phone on, even if I'm going in the store. I got a little earbud in, or sometimes I just let it play. So, everybody in the store can enjoy what I'm listening to. I'm very courteous that way. So anyway, it's great to have on your phone. If you don't have the TuneIn app, it really takes seconds to download it, put it on your device, punch in WCR and hit that little heart favorite button, and it's right there all the time. All right, 617-297-8388 is our text line, so you can text the show in real time. Or if you have a device that you can't text, but you got a computer and you want to email, if you email Text Joe on the Radio, exactly what you're doing, Text Joe on the Radio at gmail.com, it goes to the same screen in real time. But if you're trying to email the show, guys, use the show email. That's joemshow@gmail.com. All right, that's housekeeping. Just one more thing. We are live streaming the show as usual, so you can watch it and listen to it on my Facebook page and Twitter account at Joe Mangi Show, or on YouTube at the Joe Mangiacotti Show. On my LinkedIn page, obviously under the same name, and we're on Twitch TV at Joe M Show. And Twitch TV is apparently a huge platform for gamers, and people play games, and they have people watch them play games, and then they get paid to play a game for people to watch them. You know this, right?
I do know this. I haven't gotten to the point of being paid to play, but I am a gamer.
But you do one of those.
I have done. Yeah, I have done that as a streaming service. Yes.
I didn't realize that until I got married, and now my ex did that, and would be up all hours of the night, but on, and people watch and play the game and get paid. And I'm like, how much? Because I'd like to know how much is coming in. It's like, not a lot, like $1,000.
It's like
$1,000.
Yeah.
I said, okay, you're buying dinner when we go out next. It was crazy. So and that's a big thing. I don't think Twitch is really what I do, but I'm shaking up Twitch TV with political talk there. 508-871-7000. Just want the company that owns Cracker Jack. Right now, Cracker Jack, we grew up with. This was a huge, take me out to the ball game, buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks, that kind of thing. It was a childhood treat for us, and it's come victim of the whole woke culture thing. I'm not as like rolling eyes at this as much as some of them, but it's now Cracker Jill. They didn't replace it; they just added the Jill, so it's Cracker Jack or Cracker Jill. And I think that's kind of cute because, you take your kids, you have a little boy and girl, and they can each choose. Maybe he wants the Cracker Jill and she wants the Jack, or she wants the Cracker Jill. So she has the little girl, and there's a little dog, and I forget the names on it. But the story behind that, the inventor of Cracker Jack actually was a German national who had some difficulties in World War One time. People didn't think he was, you know, patriotic and really loyal to the United States of America, and he packaged it in the red, white, and blue with the stars and all that, and that seemed to do the trick. So that's how he just I don't know. We look back over the history and we see the origins of like fake news and propaganda popping up everywhere, right here and there. All right, so Cracker Jack and Cracker Jill. That's the case. What say you? Would you buy a Cracker Jill? It's the same product, but I think giving a choice for the boys and girls is fine. I'm fine with that. I think some of the other things that they do don't make sense to me, and it's taking political correctness to a ridiculous level sometimes. All right, I did want to touch on that. I talked a little bit about this the other day, but we didn't have a lot of time to get into it. And what was funny about this disinformation issue is you have CNN running this forum on disinformation. And you got Brian Stelza sitting under the word disinformation. So I don't know if that was lucky happenstance or somebody chuckled as they orchestrated that to happen. But if you want to talk about disinformation, the guy who does a show called Reliable Sources, I mean, the irony there, guys, put it together yourself. It's crazy. But the thing about this is during this disinformation in the erosion of democracy, that's the title of the forum, or conference, I should say. And it was hosted at the University of Chicago's Institute of Politics. And they had representatives there from Chicago Thinker. Now, that's an online thing called chicagothinker.com. And a writer, Christopher Phillips, he came in and, if you read the stories, they're like, oh, CNN, right? They blindsided us. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. You're hosting a forum, a discussion, right? You know what you're doing. You're on a stage. You have big signage. You publicize this. And you invited people to come to have open and honest discussion. But it seems their idea of open, honest discussion is you agree with me. You follow what we say in our narrative. And that's open and free discussion. If you actually have a thought that is different than or contradictory to, or that we don't like, you're blindsiding us, and you're propagandists, and you're going to get attacked, and they do. We'll get into that in a second. But this Christopher Phillips, he comes to Brian Stelza, and he asks a great question about the network's journalistic ethics. Question that most of us have actually been asking for years now when it comes to CNN and MSNBC and some others in its history of spreading that disinformation. And he gets to Seltzer and he asks questions about their record. And the best thing for me to do here is let's play the clip and listen to him ask the question, listen to Stelza and his response. Shane, if you could do that for me, and we'll listen to that.
My question is for Mr. Stelter. You've all spoken extensively about Fox News being a purveyor of disinformation, but CNN is right up there with them. They pushed the Russian collusion hoax. They pushed the Jussie Smollett hoax. They smeared Justice Kavanaugh as a rapist, and they also smeared Nick Sandmann as a white supremacist. And yes, they dismissed the Hunter Biden laptop affair as pure Russian disinformation. With mainstream corporate journalists becoming little more than apologists and cheerleaders for the regime, is it time to finally declare that the canon of journalistic ethics is dead or no longer operative? All the mistakes of the mainstream media, and CNN in particular, seem to magically all go in one direction. Are we expected to believe that this is all just some sort of random coincidence, or is there something else behind it?
It's too bad. It's time for lunch.
You have 30 seconds.
No, I mean,
Brian.
there's a clock that says 30 seconds. But I think my honest answer to you, and I'll come over and talk in more detail after this, is that I think you're describing a different channel than the one that I watch. But I understand that is a popular right-wing narrative about CNN. I think it's important when we talk about shared reality and democracy. All these networks, all these news outlets have to defend democracy. And when they screw up, admit it. But when Benjamin Hall, the Fox correspondent, was wounded in Ukraine, the news crews at CNN and the New York Times stopped what they were doing, and they tried to help. They tried to help him get out of the country. They tried to find the dead crew members. That's what news outlets do. That's how they actually do work together, to your question about sharing those kinds of connections and trust. We don't talk about it enough, though. We don't share that reality about how that happens. And with regards to the regime, I think you mean President Biden. The last time I spoke with a Biden aide, we yelled at each other. So that's the reality of the news business that people don't see, that people don't hear. They imagine that it's a situation that simply is not. But I think your question, it speaks to the failure of journalism to show our work and show the reality of how our profession operates. We have a lot of work to do, I think.
Yeah, you have a lot of work to do, Brian, but not in the way that you think you have a lot of work to do. And I don't know what when this all happened, we stopped everything and helped everything. And it's like, well, good for you, but so did everybody else involved in the situation. But the question stood. He didn't really answer the question now, did he? Because he didn't answer the question about the sorry, the mic problem there for a second, or a headset problem. He didn't really address the question of how it magically seems to always go in one direction, in that they continued for years pushing a false narrative, which now we know they knew was actually false narrative. And they did nothing. And the other part of this is it is perfectly okay to make a mistake in journalism. Happens. You can think that you actually are on target and that you did your confirmation and you double checked it and you got another confirmation. You use those three sources. Now, the problem that we see happening as we have the benefit of looking back over the Russian hoax collusion or any of these false stories is we see what was happening. They, in the case of the Russian collusion, they create this Steele dossier. They totally make up that hotel story. They leak it to the media, and they have friends at the FBI, because now what just happened with Durham's charge on Attorney Sussman, right? Sussman went to, I don't think, we don't break it. Got it. So Sussman contacts the, actually we do. I think we do. No, I don't know. We'll go this morning and we'll find out what the deal is on it because it's Sunday. Sorry about that, folks. Some internal trying to figure something out. We have a lot of new equipment and clocks and stuff. So let me just finish. So Sussman lies to the FBI and approaches them as if he is, hey, I'm just a guy who wants to do the right thing and help you guys out. And we see him write to the FBI and he lies and he says, I'm not representing anybody. I'm just coming here on my own. But of course, being the shady, despicable lawyer that he actually is billing the Clinton campaign for that time, as the billing records will show. So he goes to the FBI, he feeds them phony stories. So now they've leaked it to the media, leaked it to the FBI, and then the FBI sees the news story, and now they all start collaborating and confirming this story from each other, who all was seeded originally from the original perpetrator, Hillary Clinton campaign. So we know that now people have next to nothing when it comes to trust in the media. How can you? Now, meanwhile, I don't know how much of people who listen to this particular show are readers of The Atlantic, but you probably have heard us talk about The Atlantic on several occasions, and you know who owns it and what they've done and the roles they've played in disinformation and steering us in the wrong direction. So Ann Applebaum is a journalist. Let me do air quotes with that one. Journalist. And she dismissed a question, again, that was coming about Hunter Biden's laptop. Now, we know that in this situation, perfect example, this is not fictitious. This really happened. Hunter Biden used a laptop over the course of several years. Some of it, well, dad was VP and into when he wasn't. But he goes into a computer repair store. He drops this thing off, and he's so disheveled and out of it. I mean, again, I'm never attacking Hunter Biden for his addiction problem and his drug use. Many people fall into that scenario and that trap, and I hope that they can find their way out. Sometimes they never do. Sometimes it takes several times of detox and rehabs before they can. Sometimes they never do, and their bottom is death. But he does this, and he doesn't even seem to have the energy or wherewithal to go back and get the laptops. So they really are Hunter's laptops, and everything on there, he's been documented. He has this obsession about documenting his sex life, and he conducts his business. And what's his business? Well, we knew it for a long time, and now the rest of the world is really seeing that his only business is access. That's what he sells. He has the right surname, and he has the access to once the Senator Biden, then the Vice President, now the President Biden. So he forgets it. So these are all real laptops, and this is a real story. And the New York Post, a newspaper and legitimate news organization that's been out there, folks, for 100 plus years, they do this fantastic job, and they break the case. They write the story as they should in October, a month before the election. I know people want to nail it as an October surprise, but it's a real story, real laptop, real information, everything on there. And what happens? The rest of the media and big tech companies swing into action to the point that they shut off New York Post's Twitter account. And then they go so far as to take the link to the story, and they were able to go into your accounts or just onto the internet and not allow that link to be shared. And then Joe Biden, his people, get together over 50 former national security advisors and intelligence people who now, if we go look at that list, you can play a great drinking game with finding the connections of each one of them to the Democratic Party and the influencers in it. And you won't last the night. You'll be too drunk an hour into that game. Trust me. So they put this out that it's Russian disinformation, which in essence now makes them the purveyors of disinformation. You get this? Again, as we see over and over again, those who are pointing the finger at somebody always has those three coming back at them. So nobody in the regular mainstream media is going to touch this. And not only don't they touch it, they go so far as to make the decision that this is actually Russian disinformation propaganda, and we're not going to have anything to do with it. But it's a real story. Now, my question is, recently the New York Times and then the Washington Post all decided it is real. Now, why is it that news isn't news and isn't legitimate until the New York Times decides it is? When we know they've gotten things wrong and they've lied to us and manipulated the news. Why are they the benchmark? I don't get that. Nobody can explain that to me. But they are for some reason. And so now it's legitimate news. The laptop is real. And what's interesting here, folks, is everything on the laptop that, for lack of a better term, indicts Hunter, they're verified as real emails and real information. But all of the stuff that's on the same laptop, and some of it even in the same mail thread, would indict Joe Biden into some bad things like accepting money and collaboration and payoffs and so forth. But they conveniently cannot verify those emails. So now the story breaks, and you have to kind of wonder, why? Why now? Well, some are theorizing that there's something coming down the pike here, that there's just too much, that there is going to be an indictment or charges of some sort on Hunter. And they're going to try to now distance Hunter's wrongdoing from Joe's and maybe get it out of the way. It served their purpose when they hit it, buried it, blocked it to get Joe into office. And now maybe they want to do this far enough in front of the midterms to try to make this old news by November. Or, as some are suggesting, Hunter's going to be indicted. And maybe the Democratic Party understands with what's coming in November, expected by both sides. This is not just Republicans saying there's going to be a walloping, or as Barack Obama, what did he call it? A lashing? In his midterm, a whooping? I forget what he called. I don't know, Shane, if you remember what it was that he called it. But something. He called it a licking or a lashing or something that they took. Well, that's coming again this November. And maybe the powers to be have decided that Joe will not be a two-term president, and he might not even complete his first term. And so they're starting to set things up that it's logical for Joe to step down or that he is removed. But it seems like the Democratic Party has no more use for Joe Biden. He served the purpose they needed him to serve, and that was only to get Trump out of there. So now you have Applebaum at this conference, and she's asked about this, again, the Hunter Biden laptop. And the question is a great question. The one that we posed, I just posed, and that could it have had an outcome in the 2020 election? Could it have? Well, if you look at it now, and 80% of Democrats polled, voting Democrats polled, said that they did not know about this story in November of 2020 when they voted. And out of the 80% that said that, over 40% of the 80 said they would not have voted for Joe Biden. Now, they didn't say they would have voted for Trump, so I'm not saying that. They just simply said they would not have voted for Joe Biden because it was clear that there was influence at play here, corruption at play, and they would not have done that. Maybe they would have just blanked the presidential vote. Maybe they would have voted for the Green Party, the Independent, I don't know, or Trump. But that's enough to have changed the election. So Applebaum, her response to this is that it's totally irrelevant and that she personally is not interested. And she said it like that. I'm not interested, because she's from the Atlantic, remember? Well, I guess my response to that is, who cares what you're interested in? Your disinterest in this, your feeling that it's totally irrelevant, other than being wrong, is just your feeling, your opinion. Hey, that has no bearing on everyone else, or should you alter anyone else's ability to know that story, lady? Huh. So meantime, we have another report that's saying that the president's brother, James Biden, I know we always hear Hunter, 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 but let's not forget about brother Jim, because he's in all this. This is a Hunter, Jim, Joe. This is a Biden family setup. And the sister, there's also the sister. So there were over 150 transactions involving global business affairs that were flagged because they were of concern to the U.S. banks. And these are large wire transfers. Large wire transfers. Now, you know, anything over a certain amount of money is reported to the IRS, but the Bidens were influence peddling at such a degree that, I mean, if you had to sliver it down to $7,500, you'd have to do 100 of those a day. I mean, it was so much money that they just did these wire transfers. So now that triggers investigations, because when you have that much money coming across, are you paying the taxes? Who is paying the taxes? What is the money for? Ever since the Patriot Act after 9/11, we kicked a lot of laws in to monitor these things because terrorists were being funded in simple ways of money transfer. So this is all there, and it's legit why they need to look at it. But I got to tell you, if it was ever Donald Trump Jr. involved in this, they would connect it to the president, and you would hear about this 24/7 all over the news. So when it comes to Anne Applebaum and the rest of her ilk, we really don't care that you don't think it's a story, because it is. When you're talking about years in a pattern of Hunter who has no discernible skills or track record or success in business, constantly has millions of dollars coming in, there's a connection there. And then you got the brother. So it's a legit story, folks. No matter how you slice it and dice it, it's a legit story. But these 150 plus wires that have been flagged by the Treasury Department, it has to be looked at. It has to be looked at. So here it is, April. We've got the midterm elections in November. Things are going to very much heat up as we go through the summer, towards the end of the summer. All right, September and October, it will really be on. I don't know what the latest count is. I think it's up to 34, 35 Democrats in Congress are either retiring and not seeking re-election or seeking a different office. But we got to take a break here in the bottom of the hour of the Sunday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Stick with us. We'll be back on the other side.
Dr. Satya Mitra has journeyed from a childhood of poverty and homelessness to a successful career as a financial advisor, motivational speaker, and community leader. Now inspired by his guru, he uses his experiences to positively affect the lives of underprivileged people. We strive to house our blindness, poverty, homelessness, female empowerment, and good citizenship initiatives within the Joy Guru Humanitarian Center. If you wish to contribute or know of deserving persons or initiatives that could use our assistance, please contact us at 508-641-8441.
You just may have the best podcast anywhere. But who knows it exists? Hello? Get your podcast to broadcast on radio. Create a podcast. Improve your podcast sound with professional production and editing. Record your podcast in a real radio studio. Visit podcasttobroadcast.org today. Get your podcast on the radio with podcasttobroadcast.org.
John the Roofer has been a leader in the roofing and home improvement business in both Massachusetts and Rhode Island for over 65 years. John the Roofer has earned a great reputation by successfully completing home improvement and roofing projects on time and at the quoted price. For residential or commercial roofs or siding and windows, call John the Roofer today, 866-906-ROOF. That's 866-906-ROOF. John the Roofer. Call him today, 866-906-ROOF, or go to johnTheRoofer.com.
Testimonials stream in daily describing the many benefits found with CBD Bionaturals. One benefit is improved sleep. During sleep, your immune system releases proteins called cytokines, needed to fight infections, inflammation, and stress. That's right, proteins you need to fight infections, inflammation, and stress just when you need it most. With 100% satisfaction guaranteed, go to cbdbionow.com, because now is the time to improve and protect your health. That's cbdbionow.com.
You're listening to the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Powerhouse Station WCRN and our affiliates. To talk to Joe, dial 508-871-7000, and you can text Joe on air in real time at 617-297-8388.
I just added to the end of it. That's all.
Text Joe on radio at gmail.com. And now back to the most interesting man in the world. His tears cure cancer. Too bad he never cries. Common sense talk for the common sense.
So not a commercial.
music's about to end.
Put my headset. Hold on.
Powerhouse station WCRN and our affiliates. To talk to Joe, dial 508-871-7000, and you can text Joe on air in real time at 617-297-8388, or email textjoeontheradio@gmail.com. And now back to the most interesting man in the world. When he drives a car off a lot, the value goes up. Common sense talk for the common.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the first hour of the Sunday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from AM 830 WCRN. Of course, live streaming on the TuneIn app. Please punch it in, WCRN, hit the love button so it's one of your favorite, and you can always have it at your fingertips. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Don't forget, you can check us out online at tjmshow.com for postings. And then, of course, past shows are posted there as a podcast as well. And you can download the podcast, this show, on Spotify and TuneIn and iHeartRadio, all those fantastic platforms. You can find it there. You can reach the show off air at joemshow@gmail.com, or even call the office at 508-603-9778. And we're live streaming on the Facebook and Twitter accounts for me. That's Joe Mangi, Mangi, Joe Mangi Show. All right, we're going to move into some other stuff. I started to touch this briefly on Friday, and it was the end of the show, but I do want to get into it. And it has to do with what I think is one of the biggest security threats in recent memory that we've had, and it's not getting the coverage it should. But let me go to the phones first at 508-871-7000. Ken from Bolton. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Joe, and hello again, Adrian.
There we go. Look forward to that.
A little bit different today.
All right. We're still going to do our shame and fame, right?
Oh, absolutely. Jump right into it, because you teed it up in the first half hour. He's easy.
And we don't coordinate this, listeners, so I don't know what Ken's going to call. So it's not like I was like, all right, Ken, I'll set this up and you come in and hit it. I have no idea. So what do you got?
No, to be honest, Joe, I was very busy yesterday. And funny thing is, about 10 minutes ago, I was like, wait a minute, I have to come up with my Hall of Fame. I was like, oh, this is easy. Joe's already given me the candidate.
Yeah. And you can't be slacking. If you don't do it, you're not going to get your check. So that's by the way, I just popped in my head. Have you been watching the Masters at all?
A little bit.
Because I caught it. Shane, you're shaking your head. I heard this morning in the news that he was doing very well, but he seemed to have kind of lost a little bit, right?
He had two really good rounds.
By the way, we're talking about Tiger Woods.
If
somebody doesn't know.
The first and second round were really good. And then, as I heard yesterday, I only caught about the first half of his round, but he shot his worst recorded round ever at the Masters personally for him yesterday.
Oh.
But guys, we have to remember, a couple of years ago, this guy, they were going to amputate the leg. They were ready. If it wasn't Tiger Woods and it was some businessman in California who had that accident, they would have taken the leg. And they had specialists and people come in. They did everything in I don't know how many operations, 20 something already. And they've reconstructed it, not just the leg, but the ankle. So look, if he's just playing a game of golf, I think that's phenomenal. And we've seen him come back from other things. And I think that he'll just continue to do it, meaning, work out, therapy, whatever he has to do to bring it together. God bless him. I hope it all works out for him. The fact that he is taking a shot at playing in the Masters 2 years after the accident, that's impressive. But all right, it just popped in my head what's going on with the Masters. I was asking you, Ken. So back on track. What do you got for us this morning?
Well, obviously the shame. As you described, Stelzer and Applebaum. And
did you see that little potato head say, well, it's time for lunch? And it's like, yeah, could be funny if it wasn't you, right? Because you've got Greg Gutfield. He roasts this guy on almost every edition of Gutfeld, right? I don't know if you're up late enough to watch him, or if you
Yeah, I
do,
catch him.
you catch him, right? If you've watched 3 shows, at least in 2 of them, he's taken some shot at Stelzer in one point or another, right? I mean, and I think he's very short. Now you got this guy Malone, right, who's the majority stockholder, and they just was it Disney Plus or something like that owns it, and he he's on record many times at these board meetings and even tweeting out what he thinks is Stelzer. So I wouldn't stand anywhere near this guy if I worked at CNN. I would not want to be near the fallout, but I think his days are extremely numbered. He called them, just a waste of space and time. I mean, he's actually called them a couple nasty things. So I don't think Stelzer is going to be around a long time.
Well, I don't think CNN's going to be around very long.
Well,
And
this
I'm pretty
Malone guy
sure-
said that, Ken. He said it's time. It's time to burn it down. He said it's just burn it down to the ground, metaphorically, folks, and build it back up to what it was at one day. Let's go back to the 90s, right? When CNN came on the scene, they were the first like outlet that had those mobile trucks with the satellite dishes, and they had the stat phones, and they were in the middle of the Gulf War, and Wolf Blitzer was a young guy, and they hadn't gone down that biased propagandist arm of the Democratic Committee yet. They were actually a good news organization. And this guy Malone is like, why? We got to go back to that. Got to get rid of all, I forget how he termed it, folks, so it's paraphrasing, but he said all of the on-air talent are just puppets, right? They're not, then he said they are not anchors, they're not news people, they're not reporters. He sees what they are. So I think he's going to clean house and try to, put it back to what it was. Now, does that mean he should get rid of get rid of the CNN name and come out and rename the whole thing, rebrand it, or rebrand CNN? Which is harder? Which is easier? What one would you do, Ken?
Well, I believe the parent company is AT&T, and I believe within the past year or so, with Malone, they combined CNN and Discovery.
Discovery, that was I was thinking of. Yeah.
So Discovery apparently has a higher stature now than CNN.
Mm-hmm.
So, Discovery renames it, possibly.
Yeah, well, they already have a Discovery Channel, right?
Right.
So they do that. So maybe they come up with something. But this other thing that this CNN Plus that they started, and I guess Jen Psaki's going to, and what's his face left Fox to go over there. That's not going to last, right? I mean, it has like nothing for subscribers. It fell so short, according to the industry print, the online sites in the industry. They say it's not even going to make it through April. That it's going to go away or roll it into something else.
Well, it is curious to have a big hire from Fox, 75-year-old Chris Wallace.
Yeah.
That's a future.
Yeah, I mean. Right. And now Jen Psaki, well, she's going, I guess, to MSNBC, right? She's going to be on a paid subscription. Now, this is the thing. CNN, your ratings are down 90%. And your answer to this is to give people more of your crappy programming, but don't charge them for it. Who is the brilliant entrepreneur that came up with that idea? As a matter of fact, they should pay you to watch CNN.
Cut the cord.
Yeah. Oh, cut the cord. I've said cut the cord for a long time. All right. So Stelzer and Applebaum, absolutely Hall of Shame, because both of them, Stelzer was absolutely, didn't answer the question the kid asked, this kid, Chris. And, I was so impressed. There were 2 of them that got up and asked questions. And this Chris kid, I hope I see him at an anchor desk in a few years. Right, because he took 18. He's like 18. He's a freshman, 18 years old, and it takes a freshman who to ask the questions that these supposedly seasoned professional media types will never ask. So good for him, and he has a bright future. And I hope this young man, I hope he's at an anchor desk a couple of years down or a few years. Go through your rest of your schooling. And I think before you get to that point, get out there and be a cub reporter. Do the beats, do a little traveling, do the reports from the scenes, right? Get that experience. And by his late 20s, 30-ish, I'd like to see him in an anchor desk. If he keeps up that journalistic integrity and he asks those kinds of questions, and he's not afraid to, that's who we need behind anchor desks.
Yeah, and sadly, you might have stated a oxymoron: journalist integrity.
Yeah, it's out there. You can't often find them in the same person, but there are a few with it out there. So who's in our fame? Given
you named it, the two freshmen.
Oh, okay, yeah, all right, that's exactly. So I really did tee this up for you. I mean, I had no idea that first
So
story.
easy.
Yeah, he handed it to you. Yeah, these two freshmen, like I said, they are they're smart, they were articulate, and they had no fear, and they went right after him for these things. And it's not like this kid Chris threw a vague thing out there, man. Ken, he listed this story, this story, this story, and why does it magically all go in one direction? We understand you can get it wrong, but you never get it wrong in that direction. It's only this direction, And he listed off Sandelman, Smollett, all of it. So good for him. All right. Anything else,
and
Ken?
literally they documented every fact. And, okay, let's open up debate, explain. This used to happen 10, 20, 30 years ago, all the time.
Yeah.
But when we introduced the whole woke world where debate had to be shut down and only their narrative spoken, we're in a different world now.
Yep.
And so I wanted to kind of continue on the topic, so for instance, some facts. I just looked it up. Twitter has, I believe, 23% of the population that is active on Twitter. And also I've heard that only 10% are truly active in posting. Most of them, the other 90% are just watching what's on Twitter. And of that 10% of 23%, 70% of them are radical left. And yet that's what drives.
Exactly. Which is why I've always said that it's just a small handful of people who are steering the narrative here. And that when these major corporations get all scared and bend, you understand you're being held hostage by a few jamokes in the mom's basement or whatever it is. And I am amazed at Fortune 500 companies bending to these people, because if it's on Twitter for some reason, they think millions of people feel this way. Well, look out your window. Do you have anybody out there marching, protesting? Go check your mailroom. Did anyone actually take because what Twitter has done and the internet has done, folks, is it has empowered bullies, right? Because from the anatomy of their accounts, they have this autonomy that they can say whatever they say, things that they would never say to the person directly, and for things that they wouldn't have even taken the time and energy to protest the old-fashioned way. Make a sign and go picket something, right? Or even write a letter to the editor. No, Twitter and Facebook posts and whatever, Instagram, all these other things, they've just made it so easy with your smartphone to shoot off some stupidity, and that's it. So that's it. It's not a movement. Look at what's going on at Disney. Disney is screwing their brand name because of a few people who called them names. Meanwhile, the bookings to Disney have been dropping, right? Families are saying, you know what? This isn't what your company is family values, entertainment, and really good storytelling. Why are you getting involved in these politics? No. And they're voting with their wallet. Ken, I got to hold you there, though. You can call back after 7, though, but I got full lines. Thanks, Ken.
All righty.
All right, folks, 508-871-7000 and join the conversation. That's how you join the Joe Mangiacotti Show on a Sunday morning. Let's go to Mark in Worcester, who's been waiting patiently. Good morning, Mark. You look marvelous.
You look marvelous. Well, can you hear me all right?
Perfectly.
Okay, I got a little problem hearing you, but
Okay.
maybe you could turn up the volume. I don't know.
Shane's going to work on that right now.
All right. So, anyways, yesterday's New York Post, Saturday, page 15. Covert frauds reel in real feds with loot. And it goes on to say the name of the perpetrators, Haider Ali and Arian Tahazeda.
Yeah, this is going to.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm doing this for the benefit of your listeners.
Yep.
I'm sure you know about this,
Yep.
but your listeners probably don't because we got a joke of a media who won't cover it.
Mhm.
Adrian Hada Ali, what is it? Ali boasted of links to Pakistan's powerful inter-services intelligence spy agency, and his passport indicated recent trips to Pakistan. And it goes on to say that a court filing made public Wednesday said that Tarzanade provided members of the United States Secret Service and employees of the Department of Homeland Security with, amongst other things, rent-free apartments, iPhones, surveillance systems, a drone, flat-screen televisions, a generator, and law enforcement paraphernalia. The alleged conspirators offered these individuals use of what Tarzadeh represented to be official government vehicles, allegedly offered to purchase a $2,000 assault rifle for a Secret Service agent assigned to the First Lady's protective detail. Isn't that interesting? Nothing about it on mainstream.
None.
Absolutely zippo.
Absolutely. And when I was closing Friday's show, I mentioned this, and I didn't have the time. And I said specifically, we're going to talk about this Sunday. And that's the story that's coming up, Mark. So great lead in here. And I think, and that's why I said before I went in the break and I teased this is one of the largest security threats and penetrations of our Homeland Security, Secret Service, right? FBI, and nothing. Why under the Biden administration isn't this news? This is a huge thing. The two guys you're talking about, the Jamokes here, right? So you've got a 40-year-old guy, Arian Tahazadia, and the 36-year-old Haider Ali, right? These guys, they embedded themselves with one of the Secret Service agents that was Jill Biden's, the First Lady's detail. They gave. Why, if you're a Secret Service agent, why do you not think it's strange that that you are being told that, or they're presenting themselves as a special secret task force of Homeland Security? Oh, by the way, let us give you this penthouse apartment. It's $40,000 plus a year, rent free. You can go live there. Who does that? Who does
Somebody's
that?
with ties. Perhaps Ali. He boasted he had ties to Iranian intelligence,
Pakistan intelligence,
Pakistani intelligence.
Yeah. So this guy right? He's talking to me. He's bragging about his connections or his relationship with the Pakistani intelligence agencies. And no red flag comes up. No red flag. Now, apparently, these guys were going around the building that they lived in, and they had cameras set up, and they were telling residents under their fictitious, playing their persona, that they have the ability to check into their cell phones and tap in, and they were doing these things. So there was an investigation going on, and when the legitimate investigators, right, came to the building, they asked a question. Well, who are you guys? Well, they gave them the name of a non-existent department or task force within Homeland Security. So they're telling real Homeland Security people that we're part of this thing. And of course, they check and they're like, there's no such thing. And that's what blew it up for them.
And they're spending money like drunken sailors.
Exactly. So the
Giving
question
money
is,
to DHS agents and Secret Service agents. Isn't that cute? Huh? Isn't that
and
nothing about it on the mainstream media? They're so crooked, it's unbelievable.
yeah. Yeah. So they claim they're part of this non-existent special police unit, and that Department of Homeland Security was working undercover gang-related investigations. That's how it blew up. Now the question is, who is bankrolling them? Who's behind them? Who do you
think
is it a foreign enemy intelligence agency, or do you think it's another faction on their own, independent faction doing it? Do you think it could be something from within our government?
Where's the Attorney General?
That's a heck of a question. Where is the Attorney General? I'd like to know that, because
is he asleep at the switch like Bill Barr was?
Yeah, know what he's doing? The Attorney General is having his DOJ, FBI monitor parents at PTA meetings. That's what is important to him. Well, we have. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark. Well, we also have fentanyl crossing the border illegally and not overdosing, but murdering our youth, not just youth, anybody on it. And I've said this a million times, folks, and I'm going to maintain it. Do not tell me that we have a problem with overdose. These people who are dying because they think they're taking another drug that's been laced with a poisonous amount of fentanyl. That is murder. Bill Barr was actually on, I think it was Gutfeld the other night, and I was so happy that he made that point. They were talking about the fentanyl and the big bust that happened the other day. And Barr said the same thing I've been saying is, look, this is tantamount to murder. This is poisoning. This is poisoning. At least it's manslaughter. But when you purposely are putting a lethal amount of something into a drug and presenting it as something else, that is straight up murder. So stop using these terms about overdosing. They have been murdered. Make no mistake about it. 508-871-7000. Fred has been waiting patiently. Fred, good morning, sir. How are you?
Hey, Joe.
You looking good?
How you doing?
I'm good.
Doing here, my friend?
I'm good. What's on your mind this morning?
Joe, something bothers me right now. Are you aware that the Border Patrol is handing out smartphones to track the illegals?
Yep. Chuckle.
Amazing.
Smart. Think about that. They're handing out smartphones. This is just another version of, remember, the Obama phones. So they're saying that, well, this is just going to make it easiest to track, right? We give them the phone and we tell them, you've got to answer it when we call. And then they say that there are biometrics, meaning that what they hand the phone out, they record the person's voice. And when they call, they can then tell if it's the person they gave the phone to. Now, the problem with that is I call bull, because you don't have the manpower. You don't have that many agents and people that can call 180,000 people a month, right? We're looking at 2 million people this year. It's already been 1 million illegals in 6 months have come across the border. So you don't have the man hours, the manpower to do that. So you're handing them a phone. So now they have a phone, a gift. So now you're telling everybody, not only are we going to eliminate Title 42, but we're going to give you a couple presents when you come across the border. In an interview the other day,
little baggie, a little gift bag, welcome to the United
it's like going to the
States.
Oscars, right? You're going to get the bag. Here's your phone. Here's your plane ticket, your bus ticket. Here's, WIC or food EBT, some food vouchers, and we'll get you into some housing. Meanwhile, we have veterans who are living on the street, who are have food challenges. You have all of this going on. It's got to stop. It's madness. November can't come quick enough. January can't come quick enough. But yeah, this phone thing, asinine.
Joe, always a pleasure.
Yes, right. Thank you very much. Thanks for the call. And good point. I'm glad you brought that up because I probably wouldn't have made it in this morning. So I appreciate that.
2 minutes.
Have a good one. All right, folks. We're coming up to the end of the hour of the Joe Mangiacotti Show Sunday edition. Of course, coming in at 7:00. Conservatively speaking, Mike Wade. 9:00. Peter Blute joins us, and that is your Sunday morning talk block. Mike's in the studio earlier. What are some of the things coming up, Mike? Yeah, your mic's on, right? He's on. Yeah, you can go ahead.
Oh, my mic's on, but
Yeah.
my headset isn't. So
Yeah, you can hear yourself.
I mean, yes, very easily I hear myself. The
Even
other
in
thing,
your sleep, Mike.
yes,
you hear
yeah, I
yourself.
do. Sometimes I wake up because I'm snoring so loud. So.
Don't you hate when that happens?
Yep. I'm wide awake. You know, like I said, Joe, you covered some of this stuff. Want to talk about the buses of the illegals, all that stuff going on in the border.
Well, like Abbott and DeSantis.
Yeah.
Right. One is sending them to Delaware, and the other one's going to send them to the Capitol. It's great.
I got some ideas on that. You know, got a call a couple of times about national debt, how Biden had lowered the national debt. I went on the old debt clock. I mean, that thing is clicking away so fast, it's hard to believe. I mean, you're trying to get a number, and it's just changing as fast as you're doing it. So finally, I had to round them off and said, geez, I can't.
Yeah, you just got to look at the first 3 or 4 digits
that's basically what I
it
did.
literally is going so fast. And I mean, never mind the hundreds, but even in the thousands are going so fast. That's how fast our debt is accumulating.
So, want to talk about that. I had talked earlier about the Wisconsin elections, how much
30 seconds.
we got 2 good articles.
30 seconds. About 30 seconds.
Yep. And the other thing is anybody who doesn't get the Epic Times really should.
Yeah.
Throw your New York Times away.
Yep.
This paper gives you more information
It does.
than any other paper I've
Absolutely,
seen.
Mike. I have the digital version of it. Thank you. All right, Mike Wade, after the break, stick with us, folks, back on the other side, and we'll continue with this solution solving problems. That's what we're here to do, or at least to point them out. Joe Mangiacotti out.